the independents in this business, you know, and Turner, you know, with the Time Warner, I mean, their resources, we're like a little, you know, speck in the ocean.
It's ironic, isn't it, that the way it's gone full circle, that at one time, even though when you look at your business at the time, you were not nearly as big as you are now, but in the 80s, you took a very aggressive stance and a very successful stance with many of the independents and the little people, and you ended up burying them, which is good for you. That's what business is. But now he's trying to do the same to you.
Well, they ended up burying themselves. When I bought my dad's business, he had no idea what my intentions were. He'd have never sold me the business had he known that we were going to go national, so, and then notwithstanding international. So my dad would get a phone call just about every other week, you know, from one of his cronies, you know, that he had been doing business with for years, and it's like, God, that damn kid, what the hell is he doing? He's coming to Kansas City, his son of a bitch is going to ride up in the bottom of the river, you know, I mean, things like that. And my dad would have never sold me the business, you know, had he known the aggressive stance we were going to take. And all of our competitors, every single one, we did this even when I bought my dad's business. It was on a balloon payment basis. He got all of the money, you know, that we paid for it within a year, or he kept the money, he and his other stockholders kept the money and got the business back. So it was a tremendous gamble, but then after I'd made that gamble, I had to keep right on gambling in terms of cash flow, and we went to Los Angeles, went to St. Louis, and all points, you know, east and west in the middle. So. And by the way, most of the independents that we went to, I went to them and sat down with them and said, can we work out a deal? Can, you know, is there a way, like I did with my dad, is there a way that we could absorb this or pay you X number of dollars through the years? And here's this young kid at the time standing in front of these elderly millionaires, you know, who had far more resources than I did, saying, you know,
so you don't buy the analogy that you were once the big guy, now you're the little guy, and stop crying because you're...
Oh, I don't think I'm the little guy. I mean, not in this industry.
Compared to Ted Turner, you
portray yourself. Compared to Ted Turner, sure. I mean, in terms of resources,
so let me ask you this. Why don't you take a partner? Why don't you take Rupert Murdoch? Have you ever talked to Rupert Murdoch? Has he made...
I've talked to Rupert a number of times, but not about being a partner.
Why not?
One day we may make this a public company. You know, I mean, I think that's probably the way to go one day. But I don't know. I like being an independent. I don't like being part of some. You get sort of like swept away if you're part of a conglomerate somehow. There are some advantages, yes. I like competing. I like being out in the marketplace.
You'd love to sit though face to face with Ted Turner on an even playing field and then say, see what you can do.
You know, Mike, I think I enjoy what we're doing now because there's no way to have an even playing field with Ted Turner.
Rupert Murdoch would make it pretty close.
Well, yeah, I guess he would. But I enjoy the competition that we have now because other than television ratings, we're kicking Ted Turner's ass.
We will talk to him as to why he's doing that, and the answer actually is pretty simple. Nobody can create an image better than this man, Vince McMahon. Back with Vince in a moment. Perhaps the latest creation of Vince McMahon, Mike Tyson, with Steve Austin, Stone Cold. Unbelievable performance there. But you said that you got rid of Bret Hart because you kind of lost control of him. He said he was going to kick your ass, Steve Austin. How do you let him get away with that?
I think it's good television. I think a lot of people like to kick my ass. So I don't have a problem with somebody saying it, especially when it adds to the flavor and the attitude of the WWF.
So what's going to happen with Mike Tyson, and how difficult is it to deal with Tyson? Because not from a personality standpoint, but it looks risky to me because you don't know what you can get out of him. I know you'd love to see him in the ring wrestling. A lot of your fans before the news conference were hoping that he would be in, and some of your fans were let down that he won't wrestle.
He might. I mean, Mike might wrestle. He's not currently scheduled to wrestle at Wrestlemania, but we're a couple of weeks away. Anything can happen. And then he may wrestle after Wrestlemania is over. He may go back to boxing. We don't know yet.
Business decision, obviously, to pay him all that money. You think you'll get the value out of him?
I think we already have.
Let's talk about some of your creations. I asked you this in commercial break for a second. Your favorite creation of all times?
I don't know if I have a favorite, but surely the Undertaker is a phenomenal athlete, and a phenomenal characterization. And the man behind it is one of the most wonderful men you'll ever see in the squared circle. He's an extraordinary competitor.
Right. Now, you've got to like that also because that's a real kudo to you, because when he was WCW, he was really not a factor at all.
But you've seen that over and over with stars who have left Turner's organization, in which they had tremendous talent, but it wasn't recognized, and they didn't have the opportunity to be able to be all they could be. Stone Cold Steve Austin's another one. Right? There are many, many.
Why does it work, The Undertaker? Let me get inside your head. He represents death, yet he's incredibly popular.
I think he represents life. I don't think he represents death.
He's a dead man, isn't he?
Well, yeah, but he's alive.
Okay.
So I mean, it's like
we may be trying to go too deep and trying to analyze something that can't be analyzed. But why do you think? Where's the appeal there? For clearly it's there, but why is it there?
I think people can relate to that character. I mean, I think that you know, you can relate to someone who can't die, or at your point of view, he's already dead, yet he still walks, he still breathes. So I think most people could relate to someone like that, a characterization like that.
Popularity of Steve Austin.
Unbelievably enormous. I've never seen anything like it. Not even in the brightest of the Hogan days, nothing has equaled Stone Cold's popularity.
And why do you think?
I really don't know. I think Stone Cold, more than anything else, is saying what the populace would like to say, is doing what the populace would like to do, and I think that basically the common man, the everyday man and or a woman, can relate to Stone Cold Steve Austin. He has that ability. That's who he is, and he doesn't aspire to be anything beyond that. He's very proud of that's who he is, and I think that's probably the relationship, although I'm not certain.
How much did Steve Austin, Stone Cold, evolve, and how much was in your head when he debuted?
Oh, I think that one of the things that we do as a company is we're good listeners, and we're decent producers as well. But I think that if you're a good listener and you recognize talent that someone has, I mean, it's pretty obvious when they have talent. I mean, you can camouflage it, you can hide that talent if you chose to politically, but that's not what the WWF is all about. So we're good listeners. I think most of Stone Cold's popularity, most of the athletes that are here and their popularity really relates to them, the talent, more than it does what the WWF does to enhance it, although it all has to work together naturally.
Goldust. Tell me.
Goldust?
Why does he work?
Goldust. Well, Goldust works for a number of reasons. He's bizarre, and people feel a little uneasy about a character that's bizarre. You never know whether or not he's going to come out as Marilyn Manson dust, or whether or not actually in an upcoming incident you'll see him coming out as Stardust, which of course was his dad. And when Dusty Rhodes was here in the World Wrestling Federation, he had these big yellow polka dots and things of that nature, and you're going to see Goldust do that. I mean, he does a lot of things. He's a type of character that will do anything to get attention. Anything.
Slap in the face to Dusty Rhodes, who's with your competitor?
Oh, no, a tribute to Dusty. We don't slap people in the face. That's a tribute to Dusty. Dusty was called right after we did that and said, by the way, this is what we just did, and Dusty laughed so hard because he knew what we were doing.
Well, you may have a comment about that last comment from Vince McMahon, and if you do, we invite you to respond as always. We know we'll get tons of it. Here's our email address. We are at, as always, right at this location. I shouldn't be smiling. I should try to remain impartial, but some of it, I've got to admit, is pretty good entertainment.
It's hilarious.
Degeneration X, is it your answer to NWO?
No. I don't think that. I think you make a big mistake in any form of entertainment by copying.
Works for your competitors pretty well.
Well, only in terms of television ratings, you know, and I think that people really know where the real deal is, you know, and that's why they support us so overwhelmingly in pay-per-view and merchandising and licensing and live events. And the live event is really what our business is all about, because the athletes we have a need to perform. That's their biggest thrill, is to be able to perform. And when you give them that forum to be able to perform, they do, and our audience greatly appreciates it.
We talked on the last show about the boundaries, overstepping the boundaries, the morality of it,
Right.
and basically you said, hey, you know, we will reflect society and we will go where we want to go, and we have that right, just the way the movies have that right. As a producer, do you feel, there's one incident that I was told to ask you, Brian Pillman, the day after he died, you had his wife on the air, and you received some criticism from wrestlers for that and from some fans as well. Do you regret that?
No, not at all. Actually, there's very little in my life I regret.
I was going to say, do you regret anything, Vince?
But I don't regret that whatsoever, because the purpose of having Melanie on, because at the time, Brian Pillman was a real free spirit. Brian Pillman was known from time to time to use recreational drugs. And it was thought at that time by his wife that that was one of the reasons why he passed away. So I wanted her, I gave her the forum to say, maybe everyone can learn from this, maybe everyone can benefit from this tragedy in some capacity, and that's why we had Melanie Pillman on. That was the reason to have her on, to be able to say that about Brian. As it turned out, he had a heart attack, and he had a diseased heart.
Ahmed Johnson, is he finished with WWF?
Yes, he is.
Why?
Ahmed Johnson hurt a lot of people. He was, I think he started believing in his own publicity. I think he absolutely lost the focus of, he couldn't determine the difference between Tony Norris and Ahmed Johnson. You know, hello, you know. I mean, so we had a problem that way.
I guess the problem is you try to convince your audience to believe the publicity, and when the guys start to believe it themselves, you run into a little bit of trouble. Hold on, we've got a few more things to tie up, and we'll do it with Vince McMahon when Off the Record returns. Stay with us. Okay, I've got some promos for you this Friday, February 27th, Vancouver GM Place, Saturday the 28th, the next day in Winnipeg, and then you guys on March the 6th are in Montreal's Molson Center. You got some fond memories of that place, I guess. I do, you know, and many fond memories. Yeah, I didn't see your eye twitching when I mentioned Montreal, did I? I don't think you did. we'll check it out on the replay. Right. WrestleMania 14 Viewers' Choice pay-per-view in Canada, Shawn Michaels against Steve Austin with the enforcer, Mike Tyson. Iron Mike Tyson. All right, let me throw out some names. Just give me a quick comment. Sure. Ultimate Warrior. Lunatic. Eric Bischoff. Don't know him that well. By reputation, not a nice man. Hollywood Hogan. Wow. Not as big as he thinks he is. Hulk Hogan. The same. Bruno Sammartino. A confused individual, probably suffering from dementia, but one with a great reputation. You're quite good at this, you know that? No, you know, you're asking me to give you. That's very good. You're just going to get, you know. You're good the way you take and you give, and that's, I guess that's your business. Rick Rude. Rick Rude. Someone who would like to be in this era and performing with the greats, and unfortunately can't. Jesse the Body Ventura. Overrated at the time, and still is confused about his place in history in the WWF. Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash, a very fortunate individual that someone saw the talent finally that he had and gave him the opportunity to be somebody. And one last one, Vince McMahon. The luckiest man on earth. I've got it all. I've got a wonderful, wonderful family. I have the privilege of being in a company and doing the thing that I love to do, which is entertain people. It's the biggest thrill of my life, other than my family. Right. We just got a couple of seconds left. You've done 2 shows with us. You very, very seldom do any one-on-one unscripted interviews as these have been. Why'd you do these? You ask. Sounds like a challenge out there for a lot of TV people. Just ask Vince McMahon and he'll come on. You reject most offers. Not really. You know, I don't often seek this type of form. People seek you. You gotta, your publicity department's got to get inundated. I don't know. Well, we thank you for it. It's my pleasure. We should also point out that Raw WWF continues to excel on TSN. We compared the 2 products in the United States and Canada. You guys are still big. Vince McMahon, thanks very much. Thank you very much. On Off the Record. Thank you. I mean, when was the last time you did one of these interviews? 10 years. Yeah. So, and you must get requests all the time. You don't even bother addressing them. Generally, no.